Chapter 2. Almost on all fours, I crawled down the stairs, keeping my body low so as not to form any shadows. As the man slowly skulked his way into the living room, Casey and Lucy began barking and growling at the stranger. Their hackles raised and teeth shone. They were viciously snarling at this particular figure. The man only stared at them, but I could hear a sinister chuckle start to fall from those blood-red lips. To my horror, he went for Lucy's cage and unlocked it. Lucy was still barking and growling, yet she cowered in fear. The man grabbed her by the scruff of her neck and yanked her out of the cage, threw her on the floor, and held her there as she struggled beneath his grasp. "You better stop that noise, little one," the stranger said. His voice had a raspy tone to it that sent chills up my spine. As Lucy continued to whine and struggle, the smile on his face grew wider. It was then that he raised a knife and uttered 3 words. "Go to sleep." At that moment, an almost parental instinct kicked in as I saw the glare of the knife. Lucy was my baby, and he was going to slaughter her. Before the guy could bring his knife down on the puppy's throat, I launched myself from my position in the dark. "Don't you touch her!" I screamed. The guy looked up, and his soul-burning eyes looked right at me, almost in shock. I nearly stopped since the stare he gave me felt like a brick wall, but I pressed on. I was not going to let him hurt my babies. He dropped Lucy as she scrambled back in her cage and cowered low. He stood and stared, and I stopped in my tracks, the Ruger trained at his already damaged face. The guy chuckled at my panicked state. "Easy there, little girl," he teased. "You don't want me to put you to sleep, do you?" In my mind, I instantaneously knew who this was. You're Jeff! Jeff the killer!" For the longest time I, and a bunch of other ladies, fangirled over this man. Now that he was standing before me, well, it definitely put things in perspective. "Ah, a smart young thing. Excellent," Jeff egged on with a smirk. "And well equipped, I see. Too bad you won't be able to share this story with anyone anytime soon." Without warning, Jeff charged me with the knife. My karate training kicked in, and I skillfully blocked the cleaver before he could slice my face open. Following the block, I pulled Jeff into an armbar, twisted his wrist upward, which forced him to his knees, and flung him on his back. The blow forced the knife out of his hands, as I then pinned him down with my knees, one hand grabbing his wrist, and the other with the Ruger pointed at his face. I was seething, and my breathing was heavy as my trembling hand kept the pistol aimed at him. However, Jeff started to laugh like a maniac. "You think you can intimidate me with your petty fight moves? Insignificant for a girl. To think you only stepped in when I was about to slaughter your precious mutt." Rage and hatred flooded through my blood, hot like coals. "If you touch them, or anyone I know, I will blow your fucking brains out!" I spat as I roughly touched the side of his head with the Ruger's muzzle, my finger almost itching to pull the trigger and watch this serial killer's brain stain the rug. Jeff continued to cackle at my threats, pissing me off even more. I felt a growl rise in my chest as I took the butt of the gun and smashed it into his head. He only laughed harder. I took my knife from my belt loop and, to my shock, began sinking the blade over and over and over again into this man's putrid flesh. Jeff just kept laughing and laughing. "You missed my throat, little bitch," he snarled humorously. "I've taken so many holes in this piece of shit that I'm pretty much frickin' immortal. I know everything about you. About your precious boyfriend in the army. How much you love music. How much of a talented writer you are. How much you love to draw and dance. Even that you have a little sister who I'm sure would make lovely fresh meat." I socked him in the nose with the flashlight. He stopped laughing for only a moment, when suddenly he had this urge of strength and knocked me on my back so that he was on top of me. Whether it was meant to be erotic or scary, it didn't matter. I was feeling threatened either way. Jeff's unnerving grin and eyes were freaking me out as I was unsure whether or not he was going to kill me or rape me. I was panicking as my chest heaved up and down. Suddenly, Jeff slowly moved his hand up and down my waist, up my thigh, and towards my chest. In my state of shock, I remembered that this guy had no means of protecting his eyes from anything. With that, I took the flashlight and shined it right in his face. Jeff cried it out in agony as he tried to shield his blinded eyes. While he was distracted, I sent a straight-up kick to his nuts. This pissed him off, but Jeff loosened up and fell over, holding his damaged genitals. I stood up, brushed myself off, and viciously yanked Jeff off the floor by the back of his hoodie, the Ruger pressed tight to the back of his head. Get out of my house, I hissed. Jeff continued to laugh like a crazy maniac. You think you'll get rid of me that easy? I haven't even got my hands dirty yet. As he turned to grab the knife, I kicked it away with my shoe so that it skidded down the kitchen floor. I deftly yanked the front door open and took no grace in throwing Jeff hard down the hard wooden steps as he fell on his head. However, he got up without almost wobbling and advanced back towards the house. At that moment, I opened fire on him, spitting out at least 7 rounds. Jeff laughed as some missed while others snagged him. By the way, he hissed, I still had my old knife with me. He pulled his original bloody knife from his pocket. I tossed the empty clip aside, shoved in a new one, and opened fire again. We'll meet again! I guarantee it! He shouted as he swiftly made a dash for the shadows, and was gone as fast as he had come. When he was gone, and I could hear the wail of police sirens, I fell to my knees and cried.